A friend of mine at one of the stores that I go to on a regular basis, he had a job interview. And it was for a restaurant. And when he got there, he was probably the 10th or 12th person to have interviewed. They called him in, and the first thing he did was stand up, greet them, it was a guy manager and a lady manager. And he looked at them directly in the eye, shook their hand, and then they went in and sat down at a desk. You know, they were both across from him. He was answering questions. Now, he went in there to interview for the job of just to be a busser, just to be somebody who busses tables, cleans tables. And he stood up straight. He didn't have his elbows on the table. He had a very just commanding presence, but stood up straight. Had a fresh haircut. Had a smile on his face, kind of like a smirk, more than a smile. Had a smile on his face, and he answered their questions. And as he's answering their questions, he's making sure that he has good posture, and he's really taking in the social, nonverbal aspects of the job interview. He's looking him dead in the eye when he's talking, not in a creepy way, but in a, I'm paying strict attention to you. And you know what they said? They said that, it would be a waste to have you be a busboy, to have you bussing tables. I really would love for you to be a server. Now, I don't even think they had an opening for a server, but they wanted him to be a server. The thing was that the general manager, the head manager, was not there. And I think they had like 4 managers at this particular place. And they said, well, you're going to have to talk to not the general manager, but the manager below, but they're busy and you might have to do that next week. But they ended up making an exception. They actually said, you know what? No, actually, let me go get her. So they go and get the other manager, who's, I guess it's general manager, there's another manager, and then there's 2, like, maybe assistant managers. They go and they get the one that's just below the general manager, and she agrees. She said that, we'd really love to have you as a server. Let's see if we can make that happen. But the general manager's not going to be here till next week. They were so excited about my friend that they essentially broke protocol. And in a large corporate restaurant like this, that's very rare, because they usually have to go by the book, right? They usually have to go in a way where there's a job opening, and it has to be filled in that way. It's through HR or however that goes, because it's not just, this is a restaurant chain. And my buddy's telling me this, and the reason why this happened was over the last few months, he had really taken the time to develop his social skills, to work on self-improvement, self-development, and to do things that other people are unwilling to do. the funny thing is that he didn't, in the big scheme of things, he didn't do really anything special. So I actually asked him, I said, okay, so what do you think caused them to have these, to make these changes, these exceptions and so on? And he said that he started naming things. One was eye contact. He made sure to look them in the eye, and as he's talking, to really spend the time and the attention looking. I always tell him to look in the left eye, but to really spend the time and attention looking them in the eye. The other thing was, he said, yeah, I really made sure my posture was good. When I was sitting down and if somebody came in, I stood up and shook their hand. And he spoke in a deep, not a deep voice, but in a more projecting voice. And these are the things that he was going on about. And if you look in history, at least in the way that most of us were taught how to be in the past, maybe not so much anymore, I don't know. But I know at least my grandpa was taught to sit up straight, look people in the eye, have good posture, shake hands firmly, these simple things. And the crazy thing is that that's no longer the average. That's no longer what normal average people do. Which means, since that's no longer what they do, you become a very rare thing. You become a very rare specimen. It's almost like the fitness of people, especially in America, in the United States, the average male is not fit. I think the average male is clinically, like technically obese, considered obese. And so even just to be a little bit fit, even just not, you don't even have to have big muscles, right? You don't even have to have big muscles to be a little more active and trim and along the weight that you should be makes you more attractive than the average man. And I would imagine the same thing goes for women as well. So the cool thing about this is that you really don't have much work to do other than being above average. If the average person sat up straight, shook hands, had good eye contact, smiled, had some social awareness, he would have had a much harder time in his job interview. But because he had those small things, which are seemingly small, but a lot of people don't work on them, because he did those small things.
In 1 mile, enter the roundabout and take the first exit.
He not only essentially got the job, they wanted him to do something that was more valuable than what he originally intended. And so the reason why I bring this up and the reason why I'm saying this is that it doesn't really take that much to become somebody of value nowadays. It doesn't take much to be extraordinary, which literally means just you're above ordinary. So ordinary being men, especially with men, being overweight, antisocial, or have very little social skills, to have low paying, very, very low paying job, bad hygiene. I'm trying to think of anything. I mean, it's so hard because I don't even. This was me a while ago. This was not. I'm not saying this because I'm better, because I was that guy. I was probably even below average. Oh, not dressing well, you know, things like that. So, in order to just have that not even just a little edge, to have a great edge, there's not much that you have to do. Learn to hold eye contact. Learn to ask questions about people. Learn to stand in a good, strong way. Learn to have good hygiene. Learn to dress well, or at least the way that looks well for you. Learn how to have a side business. Because even if you're not making a ton of money in your side business, now you're becoming a little bit more interesting. You're developing more skills and stuff. But even just working on those small little things, you're going to have an advantage over so many people who don't. So many people who are comfortable. And so, if you're not constantly working on yourself to become better and better and better at what you're doing, to become better at who you are, and become the version of the self that you want to be, start doing that. And it does not take much to see results. And once you start seeing results, you're going to have a positive feedback loop, because you're going to see results, they're going to be awesome, they're going to feel good, and you're going to want more of it. And you're going to see results, it's going to be awesome, it's going to feel good, and you're going to want more of it. And it's just going to happen over and over again. All right, so go work on yourself. Look people in the eye, smile. If your teeth are jacked up like mine were, get some braces, things like that. I had to do that. And start being the person you want to be.